Okay, so for implementing the principal component analysis, first you need to discuss with me that what are the different points for implementing PCA. What were the different steps? Can you recall? Anyone of you? Can you recall that what are the different steps? Let's see that what are the different steps. So generally PCA is unsupervised algorithm that we know. So first of all, I want to discuss the basic steps of PCA. Before that, I want to give introduction also. So PCA is unsupervised algorithm, and the basic goal is to convert the original dataset into principal components so that we can maximize the variance in that dataset. And PCA will calculate the eigenvalue and eigenvector of the covariance matrix, and we will do that practically today. But these are the basic steps. So first, you have to load the dataset, then you will have to normalize the data. Scaling using z-score scaler is used. So z-score scaling is used to normalize the data before moving on to next step, because uh, default data may have different variations of data, but so we have to first normalize it so that we can bring it in a basic range of 0 to 1. And so calculate the covariance. We have to calculate the covariance, and after that we will calculate eigenvector and eigen values. First eigenvalues will be calculated, then eigenvector will be calculated. We have to choose the first k eigenvectors depending upon only those which are contributing more, and then final transformation will be done. So in our practical today, we will be implementing this iris dataset. I mean, we will be reading the iris dataset, and then we will see that how many classes are there, how many instances are there, and the coding will start. So this coding, I will show you in Google Colab now. Let's begin the practical work. So first you have to read the dataset, and this dataset is available on this link. You can check this link here. This is how it looks like. Um you can use the same dataset. I am putting it in the chat. So after importing the pandas as PD, you have to read the CSV file, because this is a CSV file. If you check it at the top, it is iris.csv. So you have to read a CSV file. You will use this command read.csv, this pd.read CSV, and in which you will be passing the link. You will, once you have got this CSV file into the data frame, you will check the info, and info will give you that how many columns are there. 0 to 4, there are 5 columns with the headings sepal length, sepal width, petal length, petal width, and species, in which 150 non-null values are there. It means that there is no null value. There is no null value. All the values are there, and all are non-null. So you will get the basic idea from this info, in which you will also see that the data type is available for the first 4 columns to be float 64, and the final species is its object, because obviously this is Setosa or maybe versicolor, and the final one is Virginica. So there are 3 classes of iris flower. Okay, and once you know that this is how my data frame looks like, you can divide the first 4 things. The first 4 columns will be part of X. That then only we will make that equation y equal to fx, if you remember. So y will be the species, y is my final output that I want, and only the first 4 columns will be taken into the X part, so that I can play with those 4 features, and maybe I can convert them into 2. And this is a toy example. This is a very basic data set. That's why there are only 4 columns here. It may be the case that there are maybe 15 or maybe 100 columns, and you have to reduce those 100 columns into maybe 5 columns by using PCA. That might be a problem. And I mean, in that case, when the dataset will be huge, having hundreds of columns, it will be very helpful if we can reduce the original data into smaller columns, and when the overall size of the dataset will be less, faster processing will be faster. So if you visualize these x and y, you can simply write x in the cell, press shift enter, and you will see that the first 4 columns are there. And for the y, you will get all the species. Okay, now if you want to import this dataset from the library, the basic library of this pandas, you can do it like this. So sklearn, so this iris dataset is by default available in sklearn library. So from sklearn.datasets, sklearn.datasets, if you search about it, you will find there are multiple datasets that are available in sklearn. The toy datasets are these. Iris dataset is here, and there are other datasets also. You have multiple options you can pick from here, but we are using this toy dataset, iris plant dataset, and this is how we can get it. So just by writing from sklearn.dataset, import the load iris. Iris is equal to load iris. So iris is a uh, object here, and this is having all the values in this form, that all the first four columns are available here as a array. In this iris dataset, the data is available in the form of array having the four columns, which we had put here in the X from this original data that we were picking from this page, raw data. And after this, there is the second component where you can see that the second component is having the feature names. All the four feature names are there because there were four values in each row. All the four feature names are there: sepal length, sepal width, petal width. And then the target value is also there. Target value means that initially we had the names Setosa, versicolor, and virginica, but in this part of dataset, you have been assigned these numbers. These three classes of flowers have been assigned numbers as 0, 1, 2 as the default values. And this one is better for us because in any case our model will need the classes in terms of numbers rather than names. It is better. And target names are also there. There are total 5 components in this. Let's see which 5 are there. When we load the iris dataset using this command and we put it in iris, we are printing it. So first of all, there is this description in which the detail is there of the about the path and the name. So data is there in form of array. After those 4 columns are there, you can see the feature names, then the file name, then the target, and then the target names. So there are total 6 things that are there in this load iris function. And now once you have got the values in this, 1 second, I will clear this up. You can see here now, yeah, the load iris, this function, when it has been loaded into this iris keyword, now this will be used whenever we want to get the values from this point. And df equal to pd dot data frame. So here we are defining a data frame, and this data frame is df, in which we are saying that data is iris.data, columns are these are the column names, and this is the data. So the basic data frame has been defined. And let's say that I will do one thing. 1 second. So if I clear these things up, I want to show you something. I don't need this. Now what we were doing was, let me restart so that all the things are clear. So this is the first command in which after the initialization of this RAM and this Google Drive on the backend, we have to import the data as df, and df.info looks like this. You can do this thing, but even if you don't run these 3 commands, you can directly load the dataset from sklearn.dataset. If you run this now, you have iris dataset, which looks like these 6 components that we saw in detail. And then after that, if I want to see my data frame, just by doing this, that pd.dataframe is a command to make a fresh data frame in which we are giving the data and the columns. These 2 things have to be given, then only the data frame will be given. Then only it will be made. So this df.head will return me the top 5 rows of this data frame. And in this data frame right now, we have only 4 columns because we have given only 4 columns here out of this iris.data, which I showed you earlier. In this data component had only 4 things. Columns were these and names have been given as it is. But now I want to add the 5th column here, and to add the 5th column I just have to append it in a next line, df species. So this means that species column will be added on the right of petal width. On the right of petal width, the species column will be added at this place, and iris.target will be assigned to this df species. And let's see the head again. So this is the updated head. uh, because I have done the append function also, so this append of species will add the values of flower types 0, 1, 2 along with the first 4 columns. Now our data set is ready on which we want to do the PCA. But before that, I want to do few things. First, I want to divide them. First, I want to divide the original data frame into 2 parts, X and Y. X will have the first 4 columns of data frame. I have named them, and the 5th column is put into Y, and you can print it. So once you print this thing, you will find that X has been printed with the first 4 columns, and then the Y has been printed with this species thing. And in both the cases have 150 rows. So X has dimension of 150 into 4, Y has dimension of 150 into 1. So these are some basic things that you need to do to read a data set and get the work done on the basic points. Now I want to see a bar graph in which I want to present that how many missing values are there. So for that, I can simply do this import missing number as ms, just a shortcut, then ms dot bar df. So just this missing number bar graph will be plotted, and in which it is being shown that all the 5 columns, sepal length, sepal width, petal width, and species, all the 5 columns have 150 values each. So there is no null value. All the values have been filled by default. And then you can also use this Seaborn library. Seaborn library is one of the visualization library. Import Seaborn as SNS, and then you can plot. The count plot will be done on the final target value, which is Y, out of the data frame df. So if you plot this, there are 3 classes 0, 1, and 2, and for all the 3 classes the count will be provided. And in this it is very clear to us that 0 class, 1 class, and 2 class, all of them are having the count of 50. So there is this problem called class imbalance problem in machine learning. It is quite common in real world data sets, and we have to handle this kind of a problem if the need is there. And generally this is there. Why? Because let's say that you want to make the collection of all the Facebook photos of your profile for your friends. Let's say you have 500 connections on Facebook, and you want to download the albums of each of your friends from Facebook, and then you want to make a data set out of it. And let's say that you want to generate a face recognition uh, algorithm which will identify that which friend is this based on a single photograph. When tested, you want to predict the name of the person out of 500 people. Now there might be a case that some of your friends have only 1 or 2 photographs in their profile, and in other cases there might be that there are hundreds of photographs of your friend on their profile. So for that kind of a problem, in real world you will have that challenge that when you are training your machine learning model, some friends have maybe more than 50 images, maybe 100 images, and some other friends may have only 1 or 2 images on their platform. So your model might become imbalanced because let's say that most of the images are of one person. Let's say 10,000 images were there in his gallery. He was a professional photographer, and maybe due to some function or something, he had 10,000 images of his face in that profile, and all of the 499 friends of yours have less than maybe 20 images in their profile. So that 10,000 images plus 20 into 499 the total will be around maybe 20,000, right? 499 into 20 plus that 10,000. So overall, when you check the average, when you divide the total number of images by total number of classes, so the average of some images per person will be higher number compared to the actual images in that photo, in that profile. So that kind of imbalance is there. I hope the idea is clear. And just to see that there is no imbalance problem, otherwise we would have other challenge and we would have to handle this imbalance problem. But right now there is no imbalance. That's the only target of this Seaborn SNS. So all of the three classes have 50 count. Now you want to generate the correlation map, and correlation will be found between the four columns. These four columns: sepal length, sepal width, petal length, and petal width. So all these four columns are there in X. We had assigned X as those four columns, and this dot corr means that we are finding the correlation, and then we are generating the heat map using this Seaborn library. Seaborn is SNS dot heat map X dot correlation. So we are annotation doing the annotation also, so that it is clear that which feature is that. And you can clearly see sepal length and sepal length here on the X and Y axis has 1, and similarly all the diagonal elements are 1, because obviously same feature when checked with the same feature, I mean if A is checked with A, obviously there is 100% similarity, right? So that's why there is 1. Otherwise, higher the number, more the similarity. So in this case you can see that sepal length and petal length has 0.87 similarity, and this sepal length and petal width has also 82% similarity. But in other cases there is this minus 0.37, minus 0.43, minus 0.12. So this can anyone tell me that what is the range of correlation? What is the official range of correlation when we are checking the correlation? What is the range that we expect the values to be? I have got message from one of you in the chat box, -1 to 1. It is correct. So obviously -1 to 1 is the correlation range, and higher the number, more the correlation. I told you in the class also. Higher the number means it may be higher on negative end, maybe minus 0.8, minus 0.9, minus 0.95, or maybe on the positive end, plus 0.8, plus 0.9, plus 0.95, maybe plus 0.99, something like that. So all of these number means that they have a high correlation. Now clearly sepal length and petal length has 87% similarity in between them, right? And even this 82% is high according to me. 0.96 is very high. Petal length and petal width has a correlation of 0.96. So this kind of thing, I mean, this is clear from this picture, from this correlation map, that there is a need of PCA. We need to reduce the number of features in this case, because there is high similarity between 2 or 3 features, and maybe we can compress these 4 features into 2. That's why PCA has to be used, right? Now once this is clear from the correlation map that yes, PCA can be applied because there is high correlation between some features, and we can remove the duplicacy, because there is kind of duplicacy when we say that two features are nearly same. They have 90%, 96% similarity, maybe they have 87% similarity. So there is very high correlation and very high duplicacy in between them. So we have to reduce them. So for that you have to do this standard scalar transformation. So for that you can implement this normalization by using this command. From sklearn.preprocessing import standard scalar. This was there in the PPT also, I was saying. So yeah, this was the second point: normalize the data scaling using z-score scalar, right? So right now we have just reached this second point. Till now what we have done is we have loaded the dataset from iris dataset, calling from the calling from that command of sklearn dot dataset, and then we converted that original data into x and y, two things. After that, we checked for the class imbalance by plotting the bar graph. And then we generated the correlation map till now. And correlation map is telling us that yes, there is a very high similarity with some features and we need to implement PCA, maybe to reduce the number of features so that our work can be more efficient. And now we have to come to the second point, that we have to normalize the data using this z-score scaler. And for that, you can use this command. The command is this, scalar equal to standard scalar, and then x scaled. We have to transform the x part. We have to do scaling only on the x, not the y, because y is classes. Y is 0, 1, 2. They are the classification numbers. They are classes of the data set. You have to only transform, you have to only normalize your x part, which has the first 4 columns, scalar dot fit transform x, right? And then if you want to look at the updated x values after a transformation, you can look into that by printing it. So you can clearly see here that the numbers have been converted into some other range. Original numbers were looking like this. So this was my original number. This is x. All the numbers are positive numbers. The length is as the length and width is a positive number, right? And we have converted that into standard scalar form, and all the numbers are now in this minus to positive range. This is I hope that you know what is the meaning of this e minus 1. It means 10 to the power minus 1. If there is some other number, let's say e minus 2, it means this number multiplied by 10 to the power minus 2. So original data has been changed. There has been done some transformation, and we have done it with these 3-4 steps, right? Only the first 3 steps. The fourth step is only for the printing and checking that how the numbers look like after the transformation. So yeah, this has been saved into the x scaled. So we will be using the x scaled version now to calculate what, to calculate the next step. And next step was to calculate the covariance matrix, right? To calculate the covariance matrix x of data points. Now we have to calculate the covariance matrix. So for that, what we need to do, we have to work on x scaled. This we have to remember. Covariance matrix can be calculated by using this. So by just running these 4 things, now we have to import numpy, because this covariance matrix, covariance function is part of numpy library. So np has to be imported, and then features equal to xk dot transform. And based on that, you can calculate, I mean, if the original xk has been transformed, then you can find the covariance matrix just by writing this command, np dot covariance in bracket features. Or what you can do is, maybe if you want to reduce the number of steps, you can directly copy this thing, you can put it here, and you can do these 2 things in a single statement, right? This can also be done. So just to simplify the steps, we have done this in multiple steps, and clearly the steps are clear now. It is very easy. Also, we have, what we have done is, we got the x, we transformed it by using this standard scalar command, and then on the x scaled value, we are transforming our x scaled value, uh, transposing, not the transforming, but we are transposing, we are doing the transpose of our x scaled matrix. And after the transpose has been done, np dot covariance, np dot cov function will be used on those transpose values, and that covariance matrix can be printed. Now after the covariance matrix has been printed, it looks something like this. You can see that the diagonal elements are exactly same, right? So this covariance matrix, all the diagonal elements are exactly same, and other values are there as a I mean, as a value in that covariance matrix, that this is how your features are interrelated with each other, all the 4 features, right? Because covariance matrix is a matrix between the all the 4 features here. Now you have to calculate the eigenvalues and eigenvectors. So for that, you have to use a single command, and using that single command, you will get these eigenvalues and eigenvectors. The command is this, np dot linear algebra dot eigen in bracket covariance matrix. So this is a simple command. Lin algebra is linear algebra, EIG means eigen. So NP dot linear algebra dot eigen, and passing this covariance matrix, you will get the eigenvalues and eigenvectors as a pair. And if you run this, these two values will be filled, and you can also print these two values, and you can also see the shape of it. So let's see the eigenvalues, that what is the shape of eigenvalues. So 4 comma nothing, I mean it was expected, right? There are four values in a row, there are four eigenvalues in a row, and there is only one column, so the shape will be 4 comma empty. Similarly, vector shape will be 4 comma 4, because my eigenvectors have to be mapped with each other, right? So 4 comma 4 will be there, and you can also print these values. And after printing these values, you can see that eigenvalues were these four, and eigenvector looks like this. So eigenvectors has this dimension of 4 comma 4. Eigenvalues are these four, where you can see that these two values are quite low, 0.02 and 0.14. I mean, I hope that you remember that we calculated the contribution. So if you want to calculate the contribution of these four features, what you need to do is you have to I mean, keep this one number as numerator and sum of all four as denominator. Similarly for this one, similarly for this one. So we will see that what is the contribution of each number in terms of eigenvalues. I mean, this has been printed in the what we say decreasing order by default, but we want to see the percentage of variance also. So for that, you have to run this simple for loop, in which, I mean, we are picking the value from the eigenvalue one by one and dividing by np dot sum of values. So this is the contribution. So this 2.93 divided by total sum gives the contribution of nearly 73%. 0.92 divided by total sum gives us the contribution of nearly 23%, and the other two are giving me contribution of 3% and maybe 0.5%. So these are the four contributions. You can do the total will come out to be 100 exactly. So the main thing here is that we are looking into the eigenvalues, and eigenvalues have been printed in the decreasing order, and we have also checked into the percentage of variance. We have to see that what is the contribution of this eigenvalue, and only that vector will be kept. Now obviously only first two are there, which are contributing 23% and 73% respectively. So we will be keeping only first two eigenvectors. We will be discarding the other two. So for that, we have done this projection 1, projection 2, x scaled dot product into vectors t0. So vectors were these, right? Vectors were these four, and out of that, if I want to get the first one, I have to do the transpose of the first vector with this vectors dot t0, vectors dot t1. So both the vectors have to be in the perpendicular form, so that we can look into the data set as a column, right? And we have to do the dot product with the original x scaled value. Now the final result will be appended as this this projection 1 will be appended as a data frame in the result, and projection 2 will be again appended, and species are printed as it is. So species are there, and when we print the result, you will see that only 3 columns are there now overall. So species are having the values of 0, 1 and 2, and PC1 and PC2 are the two principal components that have been got out from these techniques, where we showed that the only first two eigenvalues were contributing this much, and based on that we kept only first two while calculating our x scaled projections, right? Projection 1 and projection 2, and this projection 1 and projection 2 have been printed and appended in the data frame of result, and this is how our final data set looks like. This is the principal component, and you can also make the heat map now for the correlation. So this is the correlation. Obviously PC1 and PC2, this 8.8 into 10 to the power minus 17, this is so small, and this is I mean this is the proof that our principal components, both of the principal components are having very low similarity. The correlation is very low. So that's why uh, these two principal components are quite good, and this is how our PCA has helped us. And you can also plot this scatter plot for the PC1 and PC2. It is looking like this. The variance is clearly good. The data set has been scattered in this principal component 1 and principal component 2, and I mean you can, at least you can make out that there are two clusters, but the original data set had three classes 0, 1 and 2. So there has to be some work that needs to be done by the machine learning algorithm later on. But for now we can see that my three classes have been put into the two dimensions, and the features have been put into PC1 and PC2, and that's how this principal component works.